So my current game of the year for this year recently released its very anticipated DLC, Separate Ways, and we're going to get all 7 trophies that came with the DLC.
I've been looking forward to this.
The trophies consist of 3 story-related trophies and then 4 trophies for beating the game on different difficulties, as well as getting a particular rank when finishing the game. Now, I've already beaten the game once, so I have 4 out of these 7 trophies available. My final playthrough will be on professional difficulty, requiring a S+ rank.
Story of my life.
You can do an extra playthrough to unlock the Chicago typewriter, because that's what it's actually called. But I decided against that and decided to do a full new game on professional, no bonus weapons, and no accessories. Yeah, that may have been a mistake. Oh my god! Let's talk about the S+ rank, shall we? So to get S+ rank on professional difficulty, you need to beat the game in under 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Then I suggest you hurry.
While also saving less than 10 times. And also, autosave is turned on, so if you die, you'll be going back to your previous save. Fuck. This game isn't particularly long. You'll see how long it took me at the end of the video, but just to let you know, I had a bit of time left. So grab your 10 ink ribbons, and for one last time, let's 100% Resident Evil 4 Remake. The game starts us off with our pal Luis trapped in a cage doing some very nice dance choreography. While some ganados were keen on getting his autograph, Luis's security really wasn't too happy about it. Damn, Ada! Alright. Now, the objective for Ada in this game is to retrieve the amber.
Including the amber?
And Luis has it cleverly hidden, and now the game begins.
My pleasure.
So we find ourselves in Salazar's castle at the start of the game, and we need to escape to the village to retrieve said amber. We look close to escaping, and while attaching Luis to this rope lift, we get interrupted by it. Oh, this boss fight's gonna hit like crack on this difficulty. It's gonna suck. We send Luis flying into the sky, and now we have our first of many encounters with this creature. Also, you see that scratch on Ada's arm? Yeah, that'll be important for a little bit later. Now, it's quite an interesting first enemy to deal with, and definitely not what I was expecting at the start of the DLC, especially when compared to the original game. But after dealing enough damage to the enemy, he does this flash, and then he starts making some clones out of himself. The clones themselves don't take any damage. You just shoot them twice and they disappear for the most part, but you're not actually hurting the boss. But I didn't find this boss too difficult, thankfully. At least not this first time. After dealing with it, Luis has told us that he will meet us at the church, so we have to be on our way very quickly. Now, this area on your first playthrough can be a little bit tricky since you're not quite sure where to go, but the best way to deal with all the enemies in this area is there's actually quite a decent stealth route, albeit until the end where you have to raise an alarm. After the alarm is sounded, we need to use this cannon to blow up some other cannons. We tackle the hardest part of the castle, and it's really only hard due to the amount of freaking arrows that get hurled at you. And on this difficulty, your health very quickly disappears. But after taking out a final enemy, we can finally leave the castle, but we will definitely be back. And that's the end of the first chapter. But we're not saving quite yet. Just want to quickly touch on the DLC as a whole. Overall, this DLC is fantastic. And if you've played the Resident Evil 4 Remake, I would 100% recommend that you pick this DLC up. Personally, for me, it's better than the original version of Separate Ways, and it just makes the whole Resident Evil 4 Remake package just that much more special. Capcom, you've absolutely smashed this game out of the park, so a personal thank you from me for making my favorite game of all time just that bit more special.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Now on to chapter 2, we are in the village, and God, it feels so good to be back in the village. Start of the chapter is same as always, stealth kill, randomly turn into Catwoman, and roundhouse kick this guy. Yeah, there are quite a few Catwoman references in this DLC, including the cat ears coming with a tail. We then get ambushed and attempt to sprint past this insane amount of enemies, and I will say, for the most part, it's definitely best to sprint past everything in this difficulty. While you can finish this DLC at a decent pace, you really don't want to go off track because you can very quickly start running out of time. Sadly, these calls, I do have to skip them since the game's timer is still ticking while these calls are going on. Cutscenes are fine though. While running from this brute and his terrifying spinning attack, a damn pig stuns him. That's actually kind of hilarious. And then eventually we are able to escape the area surrounded by enemies and then run into an old friend. Yeah, I kind of forgot that secondary outfits on these characters would just make these scenes infinitely more hilarious. Sadly, our reunion with Leon has to wait a little bit as we have to go ring the church bell. On the way to the church, we quickly shoot out these 4 medallions around the area to gain more spinels for the merchant. The eventual goal with these spinels is to get the exclusive ticket. Like usual, we arrive in the area, we quickly ignore all the enemies in the graveyard, and then we ring the church bell to help Leon out. And we just see that iconic bingo cutscene once again. Now we need to return to the village, and I love this little touch where you run past the villagers. They're all just in a trance by the church bell until you attack them. It's quite a nice touch. I did enjoy it. A bit further on, we run into our first merchant of this DLC.
You've picked quite the place to set up shop, stranger.
Aye. And look what it brought me.
My strategy for the merchant for this playthrough was mainly upgrading the TMP and eventually the crossbow. The crossbow and the TMP later on can deal some heavy damage on the bosses, especially when you get the exclusive ticket upgrade on the TMP. The damage per second is kind of mad. And also, after speaking with the merchant, we do our first save of the run. I decided to save here since the next fight is a very heavy reset area. All right, now we have to fight it for real. I found this a lot more annoying than the castle, and I really didn't think I would. To be fair, I was also quite picky about not having a good start, so if I took damage in the first phase, I would usually just reset. To be fair, now that I think about it, I do this in a lot of these boss fights. But this fight is rather similar to the castle one. You do enough damage, and then he spawns extra versions of himself, and then you'll pretty much be kiting all of them around the village, which, to be honest, isn't the hardest thing to do. It's just you can very quickly be overwhelmed. But as soon as you do enough damage, the boss will go down. Oh, thank God. And then we get a little tease as something isn't quite right with Ada. We do a quick cleanup of the village area, looking for treasures and ammo, and then we press on towards the village chief's house. We arrive at the chief's house and we catch him and Leon doing something a little bit saucy and not quite PG. And we can't be one of those sitting in the corner just watching. So we end that fiasco. I really wrote that. Wow. As soon as we look over the chief leaving the village, we beat the chapter. But we're not quite saving yet. If you guys are enjoying the video, hit that like button. And if you're brand new around here, why not subscribe? We do cool things here. Start of the chapter, we have to pick up this key behind the picture frame. This is Resident Evil. Of course there's a key behind the picture frame. But as we try and leave the house, we get ambushed by our old friend. Now, when running away from the chief, treat this as Outlast on Insane. If you get grabbed, you are dead. So just don't get grabbed. I do really like this chase though. I love that you can just skip over enemies by using the grapple hook, and yeah, just overall solid tense chase. And it ends just as soon as you get to the factory, and as soon as we get to the factory, we're going to use our second save. Now the start of the factory isn't that bad. It's a bit of stealth as we take down a few enemies, including this one wearing Leon's jacket. Also in this building is the crossbow that I somehow don't have a clip for. After looking around the factory for Luis, he is nowhere to be found. We follow its footsteps and find a cigarette packet with a radio frequency on the back, which sadly we can't listen to because our timer is ticking. While trying to leave the factory, we get ambushed by enemies and everyone's favorite chainsaw wielding. Wow. Yeah, I somehow missed the door. Don't know how I managed that, but there we are. Back here again, and this is my actual strategy. I blow them up with a few grenades, and then I somehow managed to sneak all the way around the building without seeing the chainsaw people. We turn the valve, and then basically skip the entire chainsaw fight. I'll take that. As we escape the factory, Ada starts to feel a little bit woozy and ends up fainting. Upon waking up, we are talking with Albert Wesker, and he's asking us about this situation, and pretty much just tells us to hurry up and tells us that Luis is held out in a cabin. And I wonder which cabin that is. But before we're able to get there, we get interrupted by a big sweaty man. What am I doing with this script? Now, on this difficulty, I do not like this fight. I hate the enemies on the floor that just throw stuff at you. Like, bro, what is that? I hate that the Gigante has some very interesting hitboxes on where he can grab you when you fly through the air. Come on, what? Really? And I'll say this for now, this definitely isn't the first time I'm doing this fight. More on that later. Oh my God, Gigante, you suck. After defeating El Thick Boy, we meet up with Luis once again, and the chapter ends, but unfortunately, we are not saving quite yet. So we're now back in the castle. Luis needs to get to his lab to get some medicine for Leon, Ashley, and Ada, which, if you couldn't tell by now, is also infected. A slight change in the story, and it is one that I do like. It increases the stakes just a little bit more. We now have to deal with these insta-kill plagas, and I don't want to say I was sweating dealing with these, but Yeah, really didn't want to do Gigante again. If you have the TMP against any sort of Plaga, it usually makes really quick work of them. That's what the TMP slays. We arrive at Luis's lab, but sadly is kind of on fire. And Luis treats it like Herbert running in to get Chris, and he just bolts straight into the fire pit. And now we're on a timer. We have to go get him. And yes, you can most definitely die here, so just don't dilly-dally and hurry up. But now after everything is burned, it's time for a fetch quest for Luis.
The ingredients are out here, in the castle.
So it's time to split up, and we have to go find the 3 different items for Luis.
This is where we part. Good luck.
We complete this very familiar looking puzzle, complete this shield puzzle in order to obtain the first item, and then run into an old friend. Always remember, lads, knives work best for close encounters. And now it's time for the drill puzzle. This isn't too difficult, though it can very quickly get very tense. And after that puzzle, we're going to save, right? Why am I running past the save point? Yeah, I kind of forgot to save. And that proves to be a big issue since we're fighting these things next. But yeah, in this next room, I didn't see how low my health was. And it just pains me. Just roll the clip. Now, normally not that bad, but when I load back in, I realize I'm on chapter 3. As if I forgot to fucking save. Now I gotta do the El Gigante fight again. And I was stuck here on Gigante again for another 30 minutes. Oh, so annoying. But we quickly get back to the castle again, do the drill puzzle again, put the lantern on the statue, and then we freaking save. And then we deal with these armored enemies in such style. Now it's time to tackle the... God, I hate this maze. I hate it in the original. I hate it in the remake. This maze can be really tricky since it has one of those enemies that can spawn plagas. So it can be really tricky and a little bit terrifying, but it's nothing too bad, and the sniper rifle makes very quick work out of him.
Lights out.
After having this conversation with Wesker, I find the greatest cutscene that has ever been created, thanks to custom outfits. We do this quick puzzle and then find the final piece for Luis's medicine. We then run into Luis, and he has the amber, though it isn't really agreeing with Ada all that well.
The parasite is reacting to the amber.
So that's the ember.
While Luis tends to our wounds, we get interrupted once again by it. We split up once again, and the chapter is beaten. We then do our best survivor impression from Dead by Daylight, and we just sneak right around him very easily. And now we're in the sewers, and we have to deal with the damn Novisadors again. I was hoping to get through this DLC without having to deal with them. Also, on your next merchant, we're going to use our Spinel exclusive ticket on the Blacktail. I wouldn't recommend this in the slightest. I would personally use it on the TMP. Because again, the damage per second that you can get out of the TMP is insane with the ticket. Though I will say the exclusive on the Blacktail makes very easy work of the Novisadors. But again, use it on the TMP. After a quick talk with the merchant, we twist this valve in order to lower the water into then advance. And now we have to deal with a double Gyarados fight. I had a strategy going into this involving the sniper rifle and flash grenades, but it just doesn't go according to plan. And this fight can very, very quickly fall apart if you let it, which sadly, that's what happened. 15 minutes later, we get back. We use a mixture of the crossbow and the semi-automatic rifle in order to take down both the Gyarados. Used far too much ammo than I would have liked, but at least it's done. And now onto the main it fight. This is easily the hardest fight in the game for me. So much can go wrong with this fight. So much damage can be inflicted on you. So my main plan for this was to use the crossbow on his first phase until I run out, and then unload the TMP into him to get as much DPS as possible. Then in the second phase, it's sadly, for the most part, hope and pray, because I hate this phase so much. After many tries, he just has so many attacks. He has this thing where he plants bombs on the floor. He has this thing where he can just run into you, basically. Yeah, I just wasn't a fan of this phase in the Slayer. But after a few tries, oh my god, we done it. Please, for the love of God, please, just freaking die. Ah. My god. After that fight, we're now on the trace for Jack Krauser.
You're not getting away.
While in chase, we see the absolute brute strength of this man as he holds up Armor Ashley with one arm. We eventually do catch up with Krauser, but he's already making his way to the island. We just have to go get him now. Oh, at least we're on the island now. Jesus. Now onto the island. For the most part, the island isn't too bad. At this point in the game, you're just sprinting through the game, since I really don't have an insane amount of time left. Maybe about 30, 40 minutes top. So the plan is just to sprint, and hopefully not die. Yeah, sometimes that didn't really work out. But when it does work, it looks so damn good. And I look like a freaking maneuvering god when I sprint through this area. Was a little tight towards the end, but hey, what matters is that we made it. We get into the facility and into the room with the regenerator that has the spanner in his gut. Try and maneuver this guy, and I 100% thought I had enough health to tank a hit from this guy. But no. Are you so? And once again, it's time to sprint through this area. And now to deal with the regenerators, and this is probably the best way to deal with them. Yeah, you just run right past him, and then we get this battery in order to progress. Now to deal with the Iron Maiden. Now it's going to be very scary, but we're going to throw this grenade at him to stun him, and hopefully we can just slide right past him. Oh, please get out of the way. And after that, we do some skeet shooting on this lift. More terrifying sprinting past these enemies later. Trust me, this is a lot harder than it looks, since anything can clip you here. We quickly get past this geezer. I sort of like this enemy, but he's just a bit boring, isn't he? He's only in the game for like 3 minutes, then you never see him again. Now onto the laser trap. I am so happy they brought this back after removing it from the main game. And I think, to be fair, it does fit Ada a lot better since she's a lot more flexible than Leon. Though I will definitely miss Leon sprinting up this wall. Also, look at this death scene for the lasers. It's freaking terrifying. We arrive at this computer to act out Wesker's final plan, which is to blow the island up. So we have to very quickly get out of here. But not before some more laser dancing. Now, before we get to Sadler, we have to pick up the baddest of badass guns. And after that, we make our final save since this next section. I just had a feeling I was going to die since I knew what was coming up. And yeah, as you can see, I kind of died. Good thing I saved. But then we get to Sadler. Very easily deal with him. Rocket launcher is best gun in Resident Evil history. Genuinely thought I missed. That would have been horrific. We then complete the game, no problem, right? I mean, just look at how I'm moving, bro. Brilliant movement. That use of a flash grenade was on the point. And then I somehow didn't see these lasers being pointed at me, and we very quickly make it back to the... Okay, maybe not. We then get back to the area, but this time snipe the RPG guys so they don't splatter us across the room again. Fling onto this platform, and then we are done. Oh, please say we're done. Oh, we're done. Give me that S+. Let's go! Skilled agent. This the perfect mission. Ada the S+ pi. There we go. I have my 100% back. Lovely freaking game. My game of the year so far. So good. And a teaser for Resident Evil 5 Remake, because that's what everyone needs. Not Code Veronica. Who needs Code Veronica?